Welcome to video tutorial number 9 for EDFD459. In this tutorial I'm going to be taking you through the learning matrix, which is what you would probably know as a rubric, but I'm going to be calling it a learning matrix because I don't like the word rubric. And this is the document that guides you through the final submission process for each part of assessment number 1 in EDFD459. I must start off by saying I don't like the word rubric, so I have decided to use learning matrix instead, and that you must understand it is a guiding document rather than one that is prescriptive. And what is the difference, you may ask? A guiding matrix allows you to develop your self-directed learning skills. It allows you to synthesize information into knowledge, but also allows you to construct a submission that is meaningful and shows evidence of your own learning. So what it doesn't do is it doesn't, tell you word by word what is expected in that final submission, which is something that I would say is a very prescribed rubric. So instead we have a guiding learning matrix which offers suggestions and criteria level for your submission as a learning pod. So I'm going to take you through the document very quickly and show you how it works. So if you click on the assessment folder in the unit on the unit homepage, and if you have a look in the table of contents on the left hand side, you'll see there's a heading that says learning matrix and then in brackets rubric. The first option under there is learning matrix, how it works. If you click on that, you'll see that there's a page that explains how this learning matrix is actually going to work. And once this video has been recorded, I'll embed the video in there so you can see it. And it gives you a very, very brief rundown of what you're meant to do. If you click onto the Assessment 1 learning matrix in the table of contents on the left, it'll actually open up an Excel file for you. And this Excel file contains the learning matrix. Okay, just make that a bit bigger. Okay, so here's our learning matrix. It looks very much like the typical rubric you're used to, and I'll take you through it now so you understand how it works. There are 4 categories. There's non-satisfactory, satisfactory, good, and exemplary. They're very self-explanatory. And then we have accomplishments, and it's the accomplishment that is actually going to be assessed throughout assessment number 1. I've chosen 3 accomplishments that I'm going to be looking at as we develop our assessment number 1 over the course of the semester. Communication, which is graduate attribute number 9. Collaborative learning behavior, which is graduate attribute number 7. And finally, we're going to be looking at how you synthesize the content of the readings and the learning module, and that's going to be part of learning outcomes 1 and 2. The criteria suggestions that I put into this learning matrix are not word for word what you're meant to be putting into your submission. You need to make that decision, and you need to judge where you think that your content fits into these different levels. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go through the exemplary column and how that fits in with one particular accomplishment, and that is communication. It's then up to you to read the rest of the criteria to make sure you understand what's going on. Okay, so if we have a look at the exemplary column, and we're going to be looking at accomplishment number 1, which is communication. So, communication. Demonstrate effective communication in oral and written language. Graduate attribute number 9. In the exemplary column, for oral language, one criteria is it's both highly contextual and of exceptional quality. Another criteria may be the spoken voice is professional, convincing, informed, and audible at all times. In terms of the written aspect, the transcript is expertly constructed with accomplished use of exemplary vocabulary and grammar. And then the effective communication of ideas, content, and theme is embedded throughout, displaying a clear and deep understanding and engagement with the learning module. I've also given you an example of what that kind of text may look like. The history of learning spaces and their interpretation has advanced to such an extent in the last 20 years that once confined classroom environments have literally opened up to nurture the academic, social, and economic viability of students. If we were to have a look at the same accomplishment, communication, but in the column under good, you'll see that whilst I'm still looking for very positive criteria achievements, they are slightly less deep and slightly less rich than the exemplary column. And as you move down through to non-satisfactory, that's obviously when there's no accomplishment really going on whatsoever. You will also notice that under each accomplishment there are 4 lines with Starter, General 1, General 2 and the wrapper in there. Now the reason why I've done this is that I also want to have input from each member of the learning module into how they feel the final submission has gone. So I will make note at this stage that the comments that are going to be made by the learning pod members in no way affect the grade. Okay, so I'm not going to be looking at them and saying, oh, they think they've got a high distinction, therefore they need to get a high distinction. I'll be looking at the reflective comments made by learning pod members to see if we need to do a little bit of work about self-assessment and also maybe a little bit of work with peer-to-peer assessment, because it's a very, very strong way of assessing work. So the process using this, the wrapper downloads the Assessment 1 learning matrix, which is on Blackboard, once the final transcript has been written towards the end of the learning module, and saves the file so that it can be accessed by all members of the learning pod. The wrapper then adds a reflective comment for each accomplishment, so therefore each person will add 3 reflective comments, 1 for each accomplishment. Once that's been done, the wrapper then saves the file and sends it on to general member number one, either by email, or you can actually attach it to your learning module discussion board. The general member 1 then reviews the final transcript, which has been placed into the discussion board by the wrapper, and adds a reflective comment again for each accomplishment. The general member then saves the file and either emails it or adds it to the discussion board so that general member 2 can access and continue the process. General member 2 repeats the process and then passes the matrix onto the starter. The starter then obviously repeats the process and attaches the now complete matrix to the learning pod discussion board so that I can access it when I come to review your actual submission. I must reiterate that the comments that you make as individual members of the learning pod will not affect your grade. Okay, this is about using another way of assessing work, of reflecting on work, and I don't want reflective comments from each person that are going to be, page upon page. It's a small statement, maybe, maybe 20 words, 30 words. Just, if you think that your work is exemplary, why do you think it's exemplary? And what I'm hoping is that as you read through the criteria again, once your transcript has been completed, you might be able to see that maybe you thought that it was exemplary, but in fact actually it sits within the good column. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is a strong and rich learning process that we need to have an understanding of, because it's something that you can use in your own classroom as a primary school teacher. Peer-to-peer assessment and self-assessment is very, very popular in classrooms these days. So I'd like you to read through the criteria for this learning matrix, and then I'd like the wrapper to download the matrix and save it, and then once the transcript has been completed and uploaded to the discussion board for all the learning pod to review, I'd like you to start adding your comments to the learning matrix. If you've got any questions, you know where to find me.